C'è Maicon che chiama palla, dategli la palla a Maicon, quello c'ha un gran destro, attenzione, la palla per Danielino, Danielino, un anno e 3 mesi che aspetto, che sto aspettando sto gol, è da maggio del 2012 che sto aspettando sto gol, Danielino, un gol straordinario, mi ricorda quello che ha fatto a Siena, un gol straordinario, è inutile che piagni Sabatini, un gol straordinario Daniele De Rossi, il gol, è il gol del vantaggio.
Hello and welcome to the first Roma Press podcast of the season. I'm James Goodison, found on Twitter creatively at James Goodison, and I'm production and content manager at Roma Press. This is our first podcast of the new season where we're very excited. We're going to be looking back at the first game of Fiorentina. We're going to be looking ahead to Empoli, and of course we're going to be looking at the Mercato overall. I'm joined by Giovanni, our resident Roman, who's found at Twitter on at @RM_dandy. And, of course, Daniele from South Africa, one of the first writers of Roma Press, who is found at Daniel741L. Welcome, guys. Nice to hear from you.
Hi, James. Nice to be here with you guys.
How's it going, James?
We'd also like to announce part of a partnership which we've taken over the summer. It's with Sport Extra HD. You can find them on Twitter. They're the ones who produce those wonderful infographics, if you do follow us on Twitter. If not, it is at AS Roma Press. And if you have any queries about Roma Press at all, please email us at info@romapress.us. So, obviously, if you did listen to the first podcast way back, near even the start of summer, before the World Cup, when Gio wasn't even part of the team, we said we would be doing a World Cup review podcast, and then later we would be doing a preview of the new season. Now, as you may be following Roma very closely, neither of them have appeared, and here's the reason why. We recorded the World Cup podcast, which was half of us talking about the World Cup and how we all did, and then it was half of us talking about the Mercato and what we expected to happen, whether Benetti would leave, whether we bring in Bassa, a whole host of things. And that podcast was all nice and recorded. It chalked up to around, it was about an hour and 40 minutes, I think. And guess what happens? We hang up, we finish recording the podcast, we have a bit of a chat, and the news breaks, not only that Conte has resigned from Juventus, which sent us into glorious raptures on the Sky, but we also had to deal with, of course, the fact that Iturbe was going to sign for Roma, even seeming he seemed bound for Juventus, or as some Milan fans will have you believe, AC. But we're going to move on from that now. We've come here. We're hoping to make it a weekly thing. We're going to have one recorded on Tuesday next week, which will be talking about the Empoli game in hindsight, the Champions League, and the next fixture in Serie A after that. John will be back with us then. He's not with us now. So let's talk about the match last weekend against Fiorentina. It was a good result for us, a good way to start the season. What did you make of it, Daniele?
Well, I think the first half was really good, and if we play the same way we did in the first half, we'll easily we'll be able to compete in the Champions League, and we'll do really well in Serie A if we play like we did in the first half. But in the second half, we kind of had this like a coma where we lose concentration, we lose focus, and we can't keep possession. We become very erratic in possession. We just boot the ball out at every chance we get. And it was a good 15-minute period there where Fiorentina really could have scored against us. And luckily we weathered the storm like we did often last season. We managed to weather the storm, and we got the second goal late on and buried the game. And overall it was very good. Considering the amounts of debutants we had, I think it was a very good first game.
Yes, it was very impressive in the first half, especially when Fiorentina will probably hope to be up there near the end of it. Lucky that Cuadrado, of course, missed out for that game. Gio, what did you think of the game? Do you agree with Danny about the tempo sort of dropping off?
Yeah, I think basically the first half was like an epitome of what we should do this season, because we basically kept possession like 80% of the time. I think overall we did very good with possession football, because if I recall correctly, the final statistics show something like 75% at the end for Roma and the rest for Fiorentina. So yeah, pretty much agree. I think we had like 20 or 30 minutes in the second half where we really dropped the pressure on Fiorentina. I don't know if this that was a decision by Rudy Garcia of we somehow struggled with the tempo or with Fiorentina putting pressure, but overall I think it was a very good display. Also, if you consider that yet we had something like 4 or 5 new players. Players we acquired during this transfer session. So if you consider that, and we basically dominated for 60 minutes out of the 90 of the match, it was a very, very good start and a promising start for this season, I have to say.
Yeah, completely agree. Both of you mentioned the fact that there was a huge amount of debuts for Roma. I mean, Ashley Cole, for example, at Turbe, Manaus in central defence as well.
Keita as well, coming back.
Yes, of course,
Keita
as well. Yes, yeah, coming on. But I mean, overall, they all seem to fit in well. Was there any debuts that really stood out to you, or was there any debuts that disappointed you in a way, Daniele?
I think the best 2 debuts were probably Manolas. He was very, very good. What he does so well is that he pushes up forward, high up the pitch, and tries to win the ball for us, and he did it quite a few times, and it was something Benatia also used to do, and he did it quite well as well. Yes, Manolas, very impressive. Iturbe looked like he could do something later on in the season. I mean, he looks like he's in good form. He just didn't have the game go his way exactly. Bad debuts. I don't think anyone really had a bad debut. I mean, Astori, I'm still not convinced of Astori yet. Ashley Cole was average. He's pretty good defensively, but he gives us nothing going forward off the basis of that one game. But yeah, in general, pretty good debuts. I mean, it's only one game, but Manolas definitely a standout for me.
Would you agree, Gio, with Manaus being a standout there, really filling the hole that Beneccia left so late in that Mercato?
Yeah, I think it's both Manolas and his substitute, that was Keita. If you really look what he gave to the midfield when he got in, he was a real leader. I mean, the impact yet on the match, even if he was like in the 70th minute, if I recall correctly, was really say something. You could really feel, I mean, the strength and the importance of this player. I mean, we know he has won basically everything with Barcelona. There were some doubts about him coming and being 34 years old, but I still think that as a sub for Roma, it's going to be really something that adds depth to the team, had something to the team. And overall, yeah, I have to say I was a little disappointed by Astori. I don't really love this player. I have to say, I honestly think he's going to spend most of the time on the bench, considering the starter is Castan. But overall, I have to say I was satisfied with overall with all the debuts. Iturbe as well, maybe like Daniel was saying, he wasn't really fitting into Garcia game as well, but you really see that he is in a good condition. If you think how much he ran during the game, I mean, basically for until Jalic came in, he was basically running up and forth on the whole pitch, so that's reassuring for what concern his qualities.
Yes, completely agree. And overall, the performances of not only the debutants but also some of our I wouldn't say old guard in this case, because of course Nainggolan really stood out. Perhaps you could kind of call it a debut. He's obviously now been bought fully by Roma, yep. And I mean, he really ran the show and grabbed that goal as well, which was good for him. He really did deserve it, but he really stood out for me. What do you two think, Daniele?
Yeah, Nainggolan very good. I liked him since he joined Roma. He gave us a lot of depth in midfield, and now he's filling in for Kevin Strootman, and I think he's filling in perfectly. I mean, if you watch the first goal, he wins the ball off Brillante, sets up Gervinho very well. Gervinho should have finished. He doesn't. Nainggolan puts it in anyways. And then the second goal, again, Gervinho and Nainggolan linking up. Nainggolan playing a great through ball for Gervinho. But besides the goals, I mean, Nainggolan was he was all over the pitch. He's very good passing technically. He's very good tackling. He's very good pressing. He's just he's the perfect player for our midfield. And yeah, I thought it was just he was definitely the man of the match. Definitely a great performance overall from him.
You talk there about Gervinho, of course. Should have buried it when obviously Nainggolan's cleaned up with actually finishing and scoring the goal. But Gervinho, of course, he seems to have a lot of chances. He eventually scores one. I mean, Giovanni, what did you think of the goals overall today? I mean, Gervinho's last gasp, second goal to double the lead, and Nainggolan's first early strike.
Yeah, they were both pretty good. I definitely agree that Nainggolan was the man of the match. That's a sure thing. And for what concerned Gervinho, well, I think we basically have to get used to his playing style, because we know that finishing isn't really his best traits. But Garcia basically had this guy for, I think, 4 or 5 seasons. He had him at Le Mans, then he had him in Lille, and now he's brought into Roma. If you consider the tactical work and how he fits into our offensive movements, I think we can somehow forgive him the chances he misses. And overall, I think he's done a very good effort against Fiorentina. I mean, there were people that were not really convinced by Gervinho when we bought him from Arsenal, because he had honestly a terrible season in England. But right now, he's proving that provided that you have a player that knows how to work under a specific manager, you can really add something to the team. And overall, yeah, I agree. As I said before, I agree with Nainggolan being the man of the match, and probably I will name Torosidis for an impressive performance against Fiorentina as well. I mean, this guy is always overlooked because we have Maicon on that flank, but I think that the ability of Vasilis of doing both phases, I mean, both on offense and on defense, I have to say he has a pretty good cross as well. I think it really showed that for some reason we missed Maicon this season. I don't know, for injury or for because he is not fit. I think we can still rely on a quality player that can guarantee you something both offensively and defensively.
Yes, yeah, I completely agree. He was one that sort of stood out, and then overall, of course, with the Mercato overall, we've replaced Beneccia, we've tied down Pjanic to a new deal as well. We've brought in Iturbe, who's been an absolutely great signing. Overall, we've added a lot of depth as well, and just to sort of combat the fact we're going to be playing Champions League football this year, Gazzetta, I think it was the Gazzetta that gave us an A for our transfer dealings. I think it's Gazzetta or it's Corriere dello Sport.
It was an 8.5, if I recall correctly.
An 8.5. But I mean, like, overall, I was relatively impressed by the signs brought in. It was a shame to lose Beneccia, but with the attitude, we'll come to the whole saga in a moment. But let's just discuss overall. Would you say this was a successful summer, Daniele?
Definitely. I mean, we got 2 players for every position, and we still got a few extra players like Sanabria, Paredes, Borriello, Imanolsen. So those are extra players on top of 2 players for every position. Which was obviously the goal of this Mercato, was to get 2 players for every position because of Champions League, Coppa Italia and Serie A. And it's not just 2 players for every position. I mean, it's 2 quality players for every position. Probably our weakest point is left back, and left back we have Ashley Cole and Holevas, who are still two very good footballers. One has won the Champions League. Holevas has played in the World Cup recently. He did quite well. So if that's our weakest department, and we still got decent players there, I think it shows you that we did a very good summer.
Giovanni, would you agree with that as well?
Yeah, I think you couldn't do better than what Sabatini did. If you consider the type of the transfers we've done with both young players, experienced players, this time we really didn't care about the age and the possibility to earn something from someone we buy right now and get more money in the future. Let's say we've built a team that is aiming to have experience but freshness as well. I agree with Daniela for what concerns the left flank, but still I think we're still seeing an exaggerated amount of how can I say? I mean, we're not. Looks like the Roma fans are not really sure about Ashley Cole, and most of Roma fans were not impressed by his debut either. But I think that once he gets into the movements of the team, it's going to be really a true addition because he's not really old. He's 33. I've heard people saying that maybe Holevas could take his spot sooner or later. We've even read about maybe Cole leaving during the winter transfer session to MLS, to Orlando or Toronto. But honestly, I don't think Holevas is a good player, but he's too offensive if we aim to play with Maicon on the right and Holevas on the left. So I think we should really show Cole somehow that we trust in him, that we know he can be a world-class player because he is, especially defensively. He's probably, if you consider fullbacks that are not moved as center backs, I don't know, like for example Ivanovic or Koljuka, I think Cole is probably behind them the best defensive fullback you can find around. I agree, it's not really impressive up front, even if against Fiorentina did some very good overlaps that weren't let's say considered by his teammates, but I still think we should really leave Ashley Cole, give Ashley Cole the time to get into the movements of the team, and we're going to really have a classy tandem of fullbacks with him and Maicon.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, giving my own English perspective on Ashley Cole, having grown up with watching him play for Arsenal in the season where they were invincible, and then later moving to Chelsea, of course winning the Champions League there. I think he's 33 years old. British people, British football players, even they don't really move outside of the English leagues. I mean, very, very few. Bale and Ashley Cole are the only really two notable examples that.
Beckham as well.
Yeah, well, no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about as of now.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, Ashley Cole, he's still learning Italian, still getting used to Rudy Garcia's type, and I think the Roma fans do have to give him a chance, and he can go forward. I think last season he had a lot of problems with injury, and he lost his place to Azpilicueta, who is really he is the future fullback for Chelsea. But when he came in, he still did the job, and I think he brings a lot of experience, especially for those Champions League matches, which we'll discuss in more detail next week. But I mean, overall, I think it's good signing, and I agree. You do kind of have to give him time. But let's move on now to the wonderful saga, which we all absolutely loved following throughout the summer, which was, of course, Benetcha's "Should I stay or should I go?" / "Should I make an agreement worded with the club and then decide that I don't want it?" Obviously, we've seen Pallotta's comments from the other day on Tuesday, and tomorrow, when this podcast is going to come out, I think Samuel himself will be making comments on the matter. They basically seem like press conferences to sort of par Beneccia after he said Roma said they had to sell me, they needed the money. But it'll be very interesting to see the reception he gets. It's wonderful that we've been drawn against him in the Champions League in a way. But I mean, Daniele, I remember discussing with you in the first podcast whether Beneccia, after the comments saying he wanted to leave, he wanted to play for Real Madrid or Barcelona, would he ever regain the trust of the ultras? And I thought he could, but I mean, it really got past the point of no return. What do you think of the whole Beneccia saga?
I think he could have gotten the trust back from the ultras, especially if he had signed that deal during the open day presentation. I think the fans were always on his side. I think they tried to plead for him to stay at the club. But I think I'm one of the few Roma fans who isn't too upset with Beneccia. I think he was promised a wage increase at the end of the season. I think Sabatini met with him briefly, or the management met with him briefly, and they were very far apart, and Beneccia found that insulting. And I think when you watch that interview that he gave before the World Cup, it was in May, I think, or June, he looked angry. You could see it in his eyes, and that's why I think he lost trust and faith in the management. And I think he told his agent to start seeing if they could find a move. I think a move to City broke down because City ended up going for Mangala, and because of this, I think he tried to heal things with the club. That's why Pallotta probably said that they had a verbal agreement in Boston. So I think he tried to heal things over in case he didn't get the move. And I think then his agent told him, no, I'm pretty confident we can get a move, but what we're going to need from you is to try to force a transfer a little bit. And I think he did that by threatening to not attend the open day. He looked quite unhappy during training, etc., etc. So ultimately he did force the move a bit. It was a lot to do with his agent, but him and his agent are very close. And ultimately, we have to understand that these are footballers' livelihood, and he's going to be 28 soon. He's never really played for a massive club. I mean, let's be realistic. And, you know, a lot of these footballers, they're very poor when they grow up, and money means a lot to them. I mean, I don't think it makes him a mercenary, but some Roma fans will disagree with me.
Let's see if Gio agrees or disagrees. I personally I like the idea of vilifying him because I'm quite disappointed he's left. But I mean, we seem to have got an apt replacement. But Gio, what do you think of the whole saga in itself?
Well, let's say I agree partially with Daniele. I mean, I can honestly understand Beneccia. Because if you think of the situation he has lived during the summer, it was very strange for a football player. I mean, he was 27 years old. He played basically big part in of his career in Udinese. He came to Roma last summer just to earn something like 1.5 million. If you consider his whole career, this guy is 27 years old and probably has made something like 5 million, maybe 6 million net in his whole career. Now he's 27 years old, and I think he just tried to do anything to get the final last 5-year contract of his career and get let's say, a really good wage and solve all the possible problems that he could have had in the future. While I understand the situation Beneccia was in, what I really don't like from him was the way he behaved with all the management. Because if you think about it, he gave a really terrible interview after the end of the season when he was in Morocco, and the way he exposed himself to the press, the way he treated the fans. I mean, we have seen all the reports about him being outside of Trigoria and saying to the fans that he will come later, and then he just sprints away on his car. Then the interview he released in when he was in Munich, and we were talking about the interview that, let's say, triggered the reaction from Pallotta. And let's say the Benazia situation was acceptable till the interview released in Germany, because until that point I could bear what it did. But at that point, when he said they lied to me, I wanted to stay. Now I really understood that is really maybe a great player, an amazing player, I have to say. But as a man, as a professional, is not really behaving in a manner that I can appreciate. Let's say this is an understatement, of course, and I understand with you, Jane, when you say about vilifying him at the Olimpico. So let's say to summarize it. While I agree, what are the decisions behind Benazia's choice, I still think he should have handled it in a more fashionable manner. I don't know, just go to Sabatini at the end of the transfer of the season and just say, okay, I'll listen up. I just want 4 million nets for the next 5 years. If you cannot guarantee me that, just find a team to sell me. Just don't try to be exposed to lie to the fans, lie to the manager, because we have to remember that he basically betrayed Garcia's trust as well. If you think about it, it's true that Garcia tried his best to keep him at Roma, because Garcia knows that is an excellent defender. If you consider right-footed defenders, it's probably amongst the 5-6 best center backs in the world. But still, he wanted to leave so bad. He wanted to earn that amount of money so bad that basically we had no choice. I think we have handled it correctly. If we managed to make him stay in any way, that would have been brilliant. That would have been a 10 out of 10 transfer session. But yet, I think right now is more Benazia's fault than Roma's fault.
No, I see both your points. I just can't wait to stream the game and hear the boos from the cover when that all kicks off. But no, I mean, if he has, it's kind of in this. It's strange actually, where like if you look at Nigel De Jong for Milan, he's probably got one big contract left in him. And could move to a bigger club, but it'd be interesting to see. When you look at Venezia as well, the whole, I want to step up, I want this. I mean, he obviously wants trophies, and he probably could have stayed. And if he had stayed, I honestly think that Roma would be nigh on guaranteed a Scudetto if they replicated.
I think it is. I mean, we would have been the first favourites for the league.
Agreed. Yeah, especially with Conti Gate and such.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But with that Benetja scandal out of the way, we obviously had a very successful summer overall. But really, there's no time to relax and take an espresso for Roma, because we've got to start talking about January. For example, we were linked mainly on deadline day actually with this, and I refuse to pronounce it the way Gio's told me to pronounce it. But Rabiot, the PSG bloke, the French guy. Arsenal were supposed to be sniffing around at him as well. As far as I can tell, he's sort of he's a box-to-box midfielder. Have I got that right? He's yeah.
I would say that maybe technically it is, but his main strength, let's say, I think still is technique, is passing. Yeah, we've heard of him in the basically in the last 2 days of the transfer session. We have heard that we may have a deal for January, and we have heard as well that Juve was interested in him. And honestly, I think if you look at this guy, he's 19 years old. He's left-footed, and yeah, if you look at our midfield, you're really gonna see it's packed with very, very good players. I mean, you have Yuchan, you have Nangolan, Strootman, De Rossi, and still, I think that if we manage to acquire a player of his quality in January, and it's going to be for a bargain, because it's probably going to be around 7 or 8 million if he doesn't renew his contract. I think it's going to be a really good acquisition, because it's really hard to find young players with the quality Rabiot has at such a price. I mean, it's a 95. You're not going to find a midfielder with this strong at his age, because after his loan with Toulouse, he really improved this game. He played quite an amount of time with PSG as well. If you consider the midfielder PSG has, we're talking about people like Verratti, Motta, Cavalier as well. If we manage to sign him on Bosman, it's going to be a real impressive transfer, to say. I understand why Sabatini and Garcia did all what they did to try to sign him, because he's a really complete midfielder. I mean, he has good stamina, excellent passing abilities. A weakness could be is maybe he's really shy to use his right foot, but he can improve that. And overall, I think that if we strike a deal with PSG for January, it's really going to be a welcome transfer.
Daniele, you and I both seem hero worship a certain Bosnian, but do you think that perhaps Pjanic won a big contract, big signing on, perhaps could be a target for the bigger clubs if he continues to impress this season? I know very early on in the summer, perhaps even before the World Cup started, there were slight reports of PSG sniffing around. But I mean, do you think this could be sort of a preemptive signing for the change of Pjanic with all the passing that he has? What do you think?
It's interesting actually, because a lot of people are saying Rabiot will be the replacement for Kevin Strootman, which I really don't see, because of De Rossi, Pjanic and Strootman, Rabiot is the least like Strootman, I think, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think either Roma buy him and they mold him to be De Rossi's heir, or Roma buy him and sell Pjanic. But that, I think, is unlikely, because we bought Uchan, who is of a similar age to Rabiot. So you would have two players at early 20s age group, and you'd have those two players fighting for a starting position, which is usually unlikely. You usually have an older guy and a younger guy for each spot, a senior and a junior, and you eventually sell the senior to put the junior in. So I think Uchan is being groomed to take over Pjanic. I think Pjanic could be sold at the end of the season, but it would be Uchan who would replace him. I think Rabiot makes more sense as a De Rossi replacement, maybe mold him into that, especially considering Seydou Keita only has a 1-year contract at Roma. Maybe he doesn't get renewed. I think he's a great player. I think he's one of the signings of the season, but let's see how it pans out. I think right now, I think Rabiot would actually be a waste of money, especially in January. I'd try sign him in at the end of the season on a free. If he doesn't join, he doesn't join. Our midfield is still very good. Instead, I would rather put the money towards signing Darmian, because I have doubts over Maicon's fitness, and I have doubts over how good Holivas and Cole will be. And I think Darmian can play on either flank, either fullback, and I think that would be a more sensible January acquisition.
That's interesting when you talk about De Rossi's heir, and you mentioned Keita being perhaps a signing of the season to close up the Mercato overall for the podcast, which mirrors Roma's in the fact that it was a complete success. But who would you say is the signing of the season for Roma?
For me, I think if let's consider price, age, what the player brings immediately, what the player brings in the future. I still think the best signing is Seydou Keita, because he's got incredible experience. He's got a lot of quality. and I think he speaks French, which is a bonus, so he can mold into the group very easily. He's a leader, like Gio said earlier on. He can, lead the defensive structure of the team. And last season, when De Rossi had to come off, we had to put Tadej on, and Tadej played half his career as a right wing. Now we have someone like Seydou Keita, who's won tens and tens of trophies at Barcelona. He's won everything you can win in football, and he's our second to De Rossi. It's a huge gulf in class, and I think that illustrates how well we did this Mercato because of just that signing. If you just think of that, I mean, instead of bringing Tadej on, we can now bring on a man who's won the Champions League, who's won La Ligas, etc., etc. And it's not just that he used to win that. I mean, he's still a very good player now, and I think we'll see it later on in the season how he'll be a really good signing. I think the second best signing of the season would probably be Manolas at centre back. I think he's going to be really great, and I'm sure we'll sell him in a couple of seasons as well and make a massive profit.
I personally think Manolas is the signing of the season.
Yeah.
Like the Benetia left a big hole in the centre back, and I mean, judging from his debut, and that is a dangerous thing to do, but judging from his debut, he seems to sort of have filled it immediately. We needed a quality centre back to replace Benetia. We couldn't start a story, shudder at the thought, but. Not only that, he has a very, very good resale value, and also the fact we seem to have poached him from under Arsenal's nose as well, because they still were looking for a centre back, and they still were at deadline day after Ernest had signed. I know that because we got quite worried that they were going to go sign Winston Reid from West Ham, but luckily the New Zealander has decided to stay on and hopefully signs a new deal. Please, Winston, sign a new deal. But anyway, I personally think he's the signing of the season. It'll be interesting to see how he steps up for the Champions League games. Gio, what do you think the signing of the season?
I think if you divide in categories between the player we actually paid for and the Bosman, I would say that I agree with Daniela with Keita going into earning the first spot for what concerned the Bosman transfer. But I think my favorite from this transfer session was definitely Turbe, because if you think the whole context in which that deal happened, it was really something memorable. I mean, poaching a very strong player, because Turbe is arguably one of the best offensive player there are in Serie A at the moment, just poaching him under Juventus' nose, and Conte basically resigning for that reason, and the fact that we spent like almost 30 million, that makes him the second most expensive player in our history after Batistuta, and the fact that you have acquired a winger that is 21-year-old and has unmatched technical ability, stamina, speed. If you guys recall it, Garcia said during March or April that they were on the market and they were looking for someone like Turbe. That's extremely that's an extremely rare thing to say for a manager. Basically, make the name of the player in a press conference. That means that really Sabatini and Garcia wanted him because they found that he was the right profile for Roma. So that makes you think that it's really that makes you think about the strength of the club that just goes under Juventus' nose, pays 22 million to Hellas. Basically, was reported like 7 or 8 to Mascardi that hold that part of the player rights, and that's really something memorable. I have also had to talk about Carbonero because if you consider that this guy was basically we can say was pretty much the best player in the Argentine league. If you consider that he's 24-year-old and he's basically accepted a 2-year loan to Cesena, and this guy is going to be 26 when he will come to Roma. I still think we're going to buy him next summer anyway. That's really, let's say, strikes you, because if you see the strength of this club right now, they came by a player such as Carbonero, that I honestly think is better than anyone in our team bar the starter. I think I would have picked him above Ljajic, if I have to be honest, and just take this guy at 24 years old, so not 17, not 18, and put him to loan on Cesena for 2 years, and this guy just accepted. It really makes you feel confident about the future of Roma, because if we have such strength to do this kind of deal with a 24 years old, it means that we are really a team that is attractive for any player.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear your opinions. If you have an opinion, definitely tweet us and tell us who you think your signing of the season will be, and we'll certainly have a look at all of them. But now we move on to the penultimate part of the podcast, which is, of course, looking ahead to Sunday when Roma play their second Serie A game against Empoli. One interesting thing I find about Serie A is so irritating is you come back for one game and then immediately it's the international break. I don't understand it. I mean, at least for the Premier League, you had 3 games, and then you had the international break. The first game, and then just the break is such a tease, in that way. But we're back now, and we have Empoli as a preview. So I put the question to you, Daniele. How do Roma approach this game? I mean, you've got your first Champions League clash in the following midweek. What do you do? Do you rest key players? Do you rest Totti? Do you rest De Rossi? Or how would you go about it?
I think perhaps rest Castan firstly because of his injury. I think let's just be extra cautious with him and rest Castan. I don't think Maicon is 100% fit, so I would play Torosidis. I'll give you my lineup then. I'll say De Sanctis in goal. Left back Ashley Cole because he's fresh. He hasn't gone to international football. He's retired. Left centre back Davide Astori. Right centre back Manolas. Right back Torosidis. In midfield I play De Rossi, Nainggolan and Pjanic. Even though all 3 played in the internationals, I think a strong midfield wins you games, and hopefully we can kill the game off against Empoli after the first half. So I play that strong midfield, and then up front I would give Gervinho a rest because he's played today 90 minutes. Tomorrow he'll arrive back in Rome. He'll probably get tomorrow's training off. He'll probably rest, and then Friday is the last training session. So I think he wouldn't play him. Garcia wouldn't play him in a game having just had 1 training session this week. So up front, I think I'd play Iturbe, Destro, and probably Ljajic. Destro because I'd like to save Totti for the home game against CSKA Moscow on Tuesday.
Giovanni, would you agree with that? The strong midfield, but overall weakened side, resting of Castan. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at Empoli, not just their starters, but the whole team, it's really. I mean, if you compare the 2 squads, you would expect that Roma just left them in the dust, and that's what's it's going to happen. I hope, honestly, because I mean they're the most dangerous threat Empoli can offer is their striking tandem that are Maccarone and Tavano. If you think that they're both 35 years old and that Maccarone is out for the game against Empoli, I think that even if you use the second lines, you really, I mean, Roma has to go there to get 3 points. If you get less than 3 points, that's going to be a disappointment. I mean, those are the matches that you have to absolutely win against the low team to be sure you're going to be able to compete for the title. I agree. We should just keep a story. I mean, Castan just said he's coming from a very bad injury. I agree with Gervinho as well. He played 2 matches, so I think we can leave room for Ljajic. We can maybe use Destro as well as a starter because he barely played with the national team. And overall, I agree with the fullbacks as well. And maybe I was thinking about if it was possible of using Keita as a starter. I don't know if we can use him as a partner with De Rossi and others, but maybe have Keita, Pjanic, and Nainggolan in the midfield. Maybe Destro up front, Iturbe and Ljajic, and then a defense composed by Manolas, Astori, Cole, because as Daniela said, is not in the national team anymore. Cole and Torosidis. I think that's gonna. I mean, if you don't win against Empoli with this team, and if you need to put the big wheels in, I don't know what to say. I mean, Roma have to be able to get into these kind of matches and then be sure it's gonna win, even with the second lines.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Roma, if you're going to have any chance of Scudetto, we have to win these clashes, especially before the Champions League games as well. When I mean, it's effectively what we've signed the bulk amount of this depth for this sort of game. You play your second line and you get the 3 points. We're going to move on now to the last questions that we've tweeted out and asked for people to send in. We've picked 5 of them, so sorry if we haven't managed to pick yours. Definitely ask us next time. We will be recording again. I think it's on Tuesday. John will be here as well to tell us how much he hates Borriello. So we're going to start. We'll start with Giovanni. Hello, mate, from Twitter. Great names. Asks you what you think, how long Strootman will be out for, and what do you think about Man United seem to be sniffing around for him in January, according to the English papers, that is.
Well, let's start from the injury first. Well, I think that for a full recovery, they're saying about late October, maybe, I don't know. I will say just don't rush him. Just don't risk a player of the height of Strootman, because he really is probably now that Benatia is gone, is probably the only real recognized world-class player we have at the moment. I mean, he's young, he's strong. He's an incredible addition to our midfield. Nainggolan is very good, but Strootman honestly is on another level. And so even if that takes to December, even if we can play a Champions League group stage game with Strootman, I don't care. I just want to make sure the guy's safe. For what concern Manchester United, honestly, I think we Roma fans are very, very unlucky, because if there's a team in the world at the moment with financial fair play that can make a move for a player of the level of Strootman in January and spending something like 50 or I don't know 60 million for this guy, that's Manchester United. What I think though is that Roma is not gonna sell him halfway through our journey for the league, because honestly we have talked about Rabiot, but if we sell Strootman when he is fully recovered to get to Rabiot in, I think I'm definitely sure Sabatini, Pallotta and Baldessoni are definitely not going to do that, because he's so important and it can give you such a great addition from January on, when he's going to be fully fit, I assume, that there's no way someone like Sabatini and Baldessoni who explicitly said we are condemned to win, they're going to sell a player of his stature. I think it's going to be back from the injury about November. And about Manchester United, even Manchester United has the strength to buy Strootman. I don't think our management will allow that.
Yeah, it is interesting to see all the Strootman saga, and I suppose it will heat up again. Very enjoying watching David and Moyel have to fend off Vidal, Man United lovers. all summer, so hopefully we won't have to deal too much with that, with Strootman in January. The second question now is from Joe on Twitter, and I'll pose this to you, Daniele. How should AS Roma focus this season? Should they try and balance the Scudetto and the Champions League, or do you think the Champions League draw's tough? I mean, give it a bit of a go, but it doesn't look like we'll get through. Let's focus on the Scudetto because it's the best chance we've had in years, especially with Contigate and everything. So, I mean, what do you think?
I think we have the squad to compete on both fronts, but of course I think the priority should always be the Scudetto. I think with Champions League money almost doubling for next season's Champions League, it's very important that we finish in the top three, and very important we do well in the league. Like you say, probably our best chance to win the Scudetto since the year after we did win it last, in 2002 or when it was. So yes, prioritize 2001, yeah, but the season after was our best chance since. So 2001-2 was our best season, our chances for our best Scudetto chances until now.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, yeah, prioritize Scudetto. When we have weekend games like Empoli, we can play a weaker team and still get away with a win, and rest some of our stronger players for the Champions League. But if we have a tougher game, maybe against Udinese, maybe against Inter, then I think you've got to play your best players in Serie A and evaluate fitness levels during the week before the Champions League game. But with a very, very tough group, I think what's important is just to do well in Europe. I think if we go to the Europa League, it's very important that we win the Europa League or go very far, because that will improve our coefficient for next season, so that next season in the Champions League we won't be getting Bayern and City in the same group. So yes, if we go to the Europa League, I expect us to give a lot of attention to it. I hope we do well in it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the sort of the shifts between. Giovanni, I'll pose a question to you now from Tweetinho on Twitter. Do you think Florenzi will shine this season, he says, and who do you think will be our top goal scorer this season?
Well, I think Florenzi is going to have pretty much the role he had last season. Maybe he's going to play less because he has the highest number of appearances, but if you consider the playing time, he wasn't really involved as a starter. About shining, I really like the player. I hope you will have some opportunities to do so, because if you consider the spots he can occupy in the team, maybe we have seen Garcia used him as a fullback. That might be a possibility, even if it's a remote one. And of course, maybe the main position is going to be played in. It's going to be midfield and as a winger. If you consider we have Iturbe, Gervinho, and Jaic up front, I'm not really sure he's going to have many chances. So if you're asking me if he's going to shine, I think he's going to play his part, but not going to be one of the let's say of the pillars of the team. Talking about top goal scorer, this is our one to call. I think that if Garcia leaves some space for Destro, I mean, if he's used more compared to last season, and if Destro will be, let's say, more will be luckier compared to last season when he had a lot of injuries, struggle with the referees as well. He can really reach the 20 goals, because you see, everyone is talking about Immobile, but I think that if Destro had the opportunities that Immobile had, we're talking about things like playing basically 33 matches and like 2,500 minutes that season. I don't think he would have gone lower than lower than Immobile in goal score. You can consider that if you don't consider penalties, Destro scored even more than Higuain. I mean, on direct play. I don't think he's a world-class striker, but he's very, very good for Serie A. He's no worse than Immobile, I think. He's probably a better overall player. Let's say I'm putting my chips on Destro for this season.
Okay, that's an interesting choice. It'll be interesting to see how that all works. Daniele, someone called Echeverria, I don't know if I've got that right, Twitter handles
should be Echeverria, I think.
Echeverria, yeah, thank you. See, our resident Roman. He has said, whom should Roma target in January? Obviously, we've talked about the Frenchman, maybe, but realistically, if you look at the weaknesses in the team, who should be brought in to strengthen up in January?
I think it's an easy question. I think the answer is Matteo Darmian from Torino for I think he'd cost about 6 to 8 million euros. I think maybe we can throw in a youth player or give them Paredes or something to lower the price, but definitely Darmian's the answer. He can play on both flanks, left back or right back, and it'll give us so much cover. I really think that would push us to win the Scudetto.
Yeah, I agree. I said last time on Twitter that my dream Mercato for January may be Rabiot on a Bosman, Darmian, and maybe Scuffet from Udinese. Maybe leave him till this June in Udine. I completely agree with what Daniele said. Basically, you have probably our main weakness is on the flanks at the back. That means fullbacks. If you consider Darmian that can play on the right, on the left, he can play as a centre back in a four-man defense line. So I think that will be the perfect acquisition for January.
Yeah, I agree. I think Darmian really, really impressive. Milan was silly to let him go, and definitely one for the future as well, and it'd be a great signing, especially because the flanks seem to be Roma's weakest points, and Ashley Cole only going to be here for a couple of years. He's only a short-term solution. And so finally, we got one more question from Josh, who was recently Pjanic Button, which was a great Twitter handle. So if you're out there and you're looking for one, definitely grab that. He says, I'll pose it to both of you because it is a very, very interesting one. Do you think that Roma will change their shape to accommodate the Champions League? So possibly he's, for example, given possibly starting De Rossi and Keita in the midfield, a more competitive experience line. I mean, Giovanni, what do you think?
Well, if that means using two deep-lying midfielders, I honestly see that hardly happening. Because if you see Garcia's story at club level, it basically it almost always used 4-3-3. I still think De Rossi got a guaranteed spot in the team. I mean, he's so involved in all the team movement, so used to playing in this fashion. I think he's gonna probably gonna be a lock in our team. Keita, I hold this guy in high esteem, but I don't think Garcia's gonna put him ahead of De Rossi. And for what concern a formation change, I still think we're gonna use 4-2-3 with a deep-lying midfielder, a regista, a playmaker, and a box-to-box midfielder. I hardly see Garcia using an advanced midfielder like I don't know, a trequartista or something similar, because 4-3-3 is really working properly under Garcia. His main focus has always been using the flanks as much as possible. So I hardly see Garcia playing with other tactics.
And Daniele, what do you think?
I don't know about the Champions League, but what I was just thinking now is if we play sides like Empoli and Cesena in Serie A, what smaller teams tend to do against bigger teams is obviously drop deep. So a way to counter that I could see is putting more offensive wing backs on. So Holebas and Maicon are very offensive ones, right? And then what you do to cover that is you play Keita and De Rossi. So when defending, Astori or Castan and Manolas push out wide a little bit more. De Rossi drops back to the middle of those two in between them, and then Keita takes up De Rossi's destroyer position, that the last line of defense before the defense. So I could see Keita and De Rossi playing together against smaller teams if the fullbacks are more attacking, like Olivas and Maicon. But in the Champions League, with City and Bayern in the group, I don't want to see Olivas at left back, because he'll get destroyed. He's too offensive, like Gio says, and I don't think Keita is as mobile as Nainggolan. And I think against the bigger teams, we're going to get dominated for possession, so we'll sit back. And I think you need someone like Nainggolan and Pjanic, who's actually very underrated in his defensive work. And I think you need Nainggolan and Pjanic to be pressing the other team all the time. And I think we need more defensive fullbacks for that. So Torosidis and Cole. So I can't really see Keita and De Rossi playing together in the Champions League. I think it's much better to go with Nainggolan and Pjanic, more energy in the midfield. And maybe in Serie A we can see De Rossi and Keita with more offensive wingbacks like Olivas and Maicon.
Yeah, it's very interesting, that question, especially with the change and shift. And you make a very good point about the wing backs for games like Empoli and stuff, and playing those two. So it will be interesting to see how they turn out on Sunday, and we'll be interested to see how they turn out for CSKA Moscow. That really is in my opinion, must win. But we'll talk more about the Champions League next week. Hopefully we'll have the podcast out before the game. Not really sure on timings on that, but we'll wait and see. That's all from us. That's the schedule. I hope you liked it. This will hopefully become more of a weekly thing, being released maybe each Wednesday. Now this has sort of balanced it out, and we've sort of caught up. We'll be back on schedule by Tuesday. Please share this with other Roma fans who may not have seen it on forums or whatever. So that's it from us. Thank you, Gio, and thank you, Danny, for joining me.
Thank you, James.
So I'll leave you with one more thought. Is it an espresso or is it an espressino? And I guess we'll never really find out, at least until Falcao moves to Real Madrid. So anyway, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.
Calcio di punizione. È pronto Pjanic a battere tre quarti bianconera, posizione centrale. Lancerà verso l'area di rigore. Parte Miralem, eccolo il tentativo di tiro, la palla respinta, il capitano tira, il gol del bimbo d'oro, è il gol del bimbo d'oro, è il gol del bimbo d'oro, una sassata del capitano, mamma mia, una sassata del capitano, questa volta nulla ha potuto a Buffon, 9 gol in campionato, 224 gol, Nordal ad un passo il capitano, braccia al cielo, tutti i giocatori su di lui, tutto il pubblico è impazzito, una sassata incredibile dal limite dell'area di rigore, imparabile per Buffon.